So the last time we chatted, guys, we were finishing up, and I can't remember if it made it into the recording or if it was post pushing the record stop button. But Sileem, we were talking about drinking and the fact that I haven't been drinking or kind of gave up booze. Feels weird to say that, actually. And you brought up this term day drinking, which, or no, not day drinking, but drinking as a hobby. That how kind of sad that is, that there are people out there who actually list this as some people kiteboarding, knitting, and then there's those that write drinking down as a hobby. And I guess I want to just kick right off by getting into where did that come from? Where have you seen that listed? Day drinking or drinking. I keep calling it day drinking because as I was sort of looking into this before the episode, I saw I was looking up drinking as a hobby, and I found these multitude of websites with t-shirts with the slogan, "Day drinking is my hobby." So it's really about drinking as a hobby. So yeah, I'll shut up now and let you kick that off. And Justin is with us as well. So 3 of us are back. Good to have you guys. So yeah, let's get into this drinking topic.
Yeah, I mean, I see it like isn't this something that you would like? I think like some people would put that on like dating apps and stuff, like in their profile, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, like what do you like doing? It's like, I like going to the movies and drinking, maybe not together, but
right,
or maybe together. It's a thing, as I think, particularly, especially in Japan. I mean, a lot of people drink here. Maybe not as much as like they used to. Like I don't know what the stats are, but yeah, alcohol is a big pastime in Japan. A lot of lonely people spend a lot of time at home drinking. And maybe not just lonely people, but all sorts of people.
Yeah, and I guess if you're thinking, like you said, the dating apps, that if someone is kind of looking at, well, what is this person all about, and drinking is listed, I'm just trying to think what would be the attraction to, who would be attracted by that? A fellow drinker? Like, yeah. Oh, good, here's someone else who likes to do this as well. So swipe left or right or whatever it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people because it's not just like men or not just women. So it's going to be like guy, but one of his hobbies is drinking. Girl, one of her hobbies is drinking. Let's drink together and make terrible decisions.
Yeah, and is that or is that just a way to say, hey, I drink, so I'm not an abstainer of alcohol. So if you like to drink, or if it's drinking's part of your life, not necessarily as a hobby per se, but it's something you do, then it's putting it out there. I don't know. I'm just kind of reaching maybe a bit with that, but
well, I think, most dating apps already have like do you drink or not? Like sometimes don't drink. I mean, that tends to be like one of the like profile options that you can put in. So that's already probably in there by default. And yeah. Go ahead, Justin.
As a single person on this pod, I'm going to jump in here so you don't give too many details, Sileem, that it makes it sound like you've been on the app recently.
As a married man, yes.
I have friends on the app. I have friends on the app. Come on, guys. Come on.
So that's why we have a podcast, because you can do these, so you can research anything you want without creating any suspicion.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's funny you say that, because so between our last recording and this one, I actually signed up for one of those dating apps, and not because of this, but actually because of a conversation I had with a friend. We were out at dinner, and he's been single for a while, and he was just expressing how challenging it was on all of the different dating apps. And I've been single for a little while now, and I have dated a little, but it's all been through social circle. It's all been through people I knew or friends of friends or whatever that I was being introduced to, or I'd meet them at a dinner party or something and, strike up a conversation and maybe go out on some dates, and in some cases dated. But I figured after my friend's feedback, why not? I'll check it out. So I signed up for my first one ever about 2 weeks ago, and it's, as people describe Twitter, it's kind of a hell site. It's just an absolute debacle. And I'm trying to keep words here that your nephew can still enjoy this episode at this point.
I know, because I really don't want to put an E on this one.
Yeah, we'll endeavor to not make this an explicit one.
So what I noticed was twofold. One, what Sileem was describing just now. Yes, there's these different designations that people can put. I occasionally drink. I drink frequently. I drink all the time. I never work out. I occasionally work out. I work all the time. Those kind of things are very easy things that people can add or not even put on their profile. But what I think Sileem and I were kind of alluding to in our last recording was more along the lines of how some people will just blatantly say, like, it is my hobby. Or in the case of the dating profiles, what I found was like 90%, this is anecdotal, sure, but not the majority. The vast majority of the images that people put on their profiles are of food and liquor and pictures of their hair. It's like people getting their hair done. It's very, very interesting. I don't know if people are just trying to say, I take care of myself.
With that one?
I just put a photo of myself. I was just like, I'm not going to waste my time, with all this nonsense.
Well, the hair part I meant.
Oh, no. I just put a mirror and then next to my head, and they have to figure out which is which.
Because those that don't know, Justin and I are both slight of hair.
Oh my God.
Yeah, Clark, we're about 20, 30 years too late. I mean, if we grew up in the Tom Brady generation, we could have a full head of hair right now.
Yeah, I was going to say that I actually feel fortunate with the generation I was bald in, because back in the 70s, like 10 years before, you'd be like called Kojak or Telly Savalas was kind of the token bald guy out there. But when I was bald, which fortunately happened in my sort of later 20s, not in high school. And, you got guys like Jason Statham, Bruce Willis.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Vin Diesel. Like, you had all these like kind of macho guys that was like, yeah. Plus I was blessed with a round head. But anyway, we're diverting off the topic.
So imagery wise, it's very reinforced. It's a lot of alcohol, and I don't know if it's accurate. In some cases, I'm sure some people are they're showing out because they want to attract other people, and everyone else is drinking. So I have to put this on my profile, because otherwise, how am I going to get any matches if I don't show that I'm a fun loving person that, is into this as well? So I don't know if it's accurate, to how prevalent it is. But going back to what Sileem was talking about before, smoking is one thing that, in Japan finally shifted quite a bit in the last decade or so. And, now it's down to around maybe 20% of the population. I think it's like 10% women, 30% men that smoke. And that's vastly different than, 20, 30 years ago. So in some ways, they came for my vice. Smoking is no longer allowed. But right now, drinking is still okay. It's still here, very socially acceptable. And, we alluded to some of the social lubricant parts of alcohol in our last.
You mentioned sort of like a very interesting keyword, like showing yourself drinking may be portrayed as being fun, right? And so that's why a lot of people have photos of themselves drinking, because they want to seem like they're fun people. But I don't know.
But what if drinking's the hobby? Then you
right.
Then you meet them and it's like, wait a minute, this is it?
Yeah, that's right. All they want to do is
have your surfboard and standing in a profile picture with a surfboard, which implies something, and people do that sort of thing.
Right, of course, yeah.
Or
a photo of you playing tennis.
Yeah, or in workout gear or so I guess the idea there is, like, have you actually seen profile, like when you say you see profile pictures, is it what kind of drink? Is it someone sort of tipping a beer back, or are they sitting there with a cocktail on a table, like holding the beer, like maybe like like some kind of like hand? I don't know, what is it, Justin? You probably know. What's this called?
It's called the shaka
hand gesture.
Yeah, it's called the shaka.
Shaka. I knew you would know.
That's a Hawaiian thing,
the
right?
shot. A what?
it's a Hawaiian thing.
It is.
So
Is it? Okay.
yeah. So like, why do people do it?
So
in
it's a
Japan?
shock of gesture in one and then a bottle of beer in the other. Like,
Yeah, it's a lot of that. It's like a a chuhai or like a big pint of like watered down izakaya beer, surrounded by a group of friends or usually a couple other girls, faces blurred out. I'm fun. I have friends. I have a good time. That kind of image.
you ever see those guys who have like a profile picture and you can tell it's been cropped? They're with
Yes.
a bunch of people, but they've
Yes.
cropped it and it's just them. And sometimes you'll see like half a cheek from another person that's
Yes.
sitting next to them. You're like, what the heck's that?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I wasn't about to crop out my children in my photo.
Or my ex-wife. I don't know. So drinking as a hobby. I mean, when you guys think of that, like what image does that portray, drinking as a hobby?
Hmm.
I mean, I think there's a positive image to it. I mean, there are people who like, who are sort of fans of particular drinks, right? I'm thinking wine. I'm thinking whiskey. Who are,
Cocktails.
cocktails. People who like to do their own, create their own cocktails, right?
Mhm.
That's a thing. So from a positive perspective, I would say I'm thinking of those kind of people, right?
Hmm.
That's
Yeah.
sort of the ideal. I mean, I don't know if it's ideal, but it's at least my ideal image personally of drinking as a hobby, where you like certain, you're a sort of whatever. Is connoisseur the right word here? I don't know. But,
Sure.
yeah.
Well, I kind of think of it when I think of drinking as a hobby and then someone even wearing the t-shirt that says so. I sort of picture like a bunch of guys like at a bar with like shots lined up and they're just kind of kicking them back, buying rounds for each other, laughing, getting a bit silly. That's sort of the image I get when I think of drinking as a hobby.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah, ever the cynic here. When I think of when I think of drinking as a hobby, I just think of it as alcoholism without the commitment. It's just like, come on, commit. Like, are you in or not?
I like that.
But it is funny how many like slogans there are around this type of stuff. Like I said, the t-shirts. There was a friend of mine that was at a family. He was a work colleague of a friend of mine who was there. His work colleague was the host. It was actually a guy that worked for him, and he visited. It was a family party, and the brother of this guy, or no, maybe it was the brother-in-law of this guy, had a T-shirt. This is a Sunday afternoon in a backyard at a barbecue. A T-shirt that says, I make beers disappear. That's my superpower.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Well,
That's
I
so
mean,
corny.
the MCU is getting pretty thin on content. They might see that guy next as a hero.
What, NCU?
MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And I guess this kind of relates a little bit back to maybe my thing, which was April 30th. I attended a real estate event. It was a Sunday. I had a friend of mine driving, Mike, who's been on this podcast a few times. He was driving, and I felt, okay, it's a Sunday, and someone else is driving. I think I'm going to have a few drinks today at this event. And so I think I maybe drink four draft beers, ate a bunch of crappy food, fried foods, wings, the whole thing. Came home in the afternoon. My wife had made these Cinnabons or cinnamon buns and put all this icing on it. And so as soon as I got home at like 4:30, I ate 2 of them because they were so good. Then I had dinner, a couple glasses of red wine with dinner. And then I looked over on the counter and I saw those cinnamon buns looking at me. And I thought, I'm going to have one more. And then I just had this. So I ate it and it was good. I wasn't like I was eating this saying, why am I eating this? I knew why I was eating this because it was good. And then I just had this feeling like, man, look at yourself. You've had like 6-7 drinks today. You feel like crap. You're in the middle of your 3rd cinnamon bun. You know what you're going to do right now? you're going to eat the rest of this and you're going to eat another one. And then tomorrow you're going to be so disgusted with yourself that you're going to start this 75-day challenge of no drinking, no eating sweets, 45 minutes of exercise a day, a couple gallons of water. I can't remember how much. And you're going to do this. And I got to say, it was the impetus for me to do this 75-day challenge successfully. And of all the things that I did, the one thing I still do not do is drink. So I have not had an alcoholic beverage since April 30th.
So you're coming up. That's really cool. You're coming up to half a year.
It's like
now,
150 days or something. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And I kind of stopped counting. My friend Mike, same Mike I mentioned, he said he heard somewhere like, well, if you've given something up, why are you still counting? It's like, oh, it's sort of interesting.
Right.
Like, I get your point, but I do kind of like to say 150, not to impress anybody, but it's an interesting number.
It's for yourself.
So during this whole time, though, I've noticed all the different occasions I would attend and the references to drinking in movies. Ted Lasso. I don't know if you guys watch Ted Lasso, but so many references to drinking. Like my radar is up for it. So it's like, geez, it's like the default thing. So many times. So yeah, I've given it up. I don't know for sure if it's forever, but right now I'm caught between a little, like I'm liking things the way they are. And I feel like if people are like, hey, anything in moderation. It's like, if I feel like if I go moderation route, I'm just going to go back to not super major drinking problem type drinking, but enough that it was like I was drinking more than I wanted to be.
How much were you drinking before though?
Between cinnamon buns.
Yeah. I would say I was definitely in the binge category of drinking. So if I was going out with friends, it would be like I used to go out almost every Thursday. A friend of mine had basketball and he'd finish his night off by spending 3 hours with me at the pub eating wings and drinking beer.
Right.
And so I would probably have sometimes 3 drafts. He would drive because he'd pick me up on his way. And then I'd have a plate of wings. And so socially, I'd say 3 or 4 out on a night, maybe more depending on the kind of night it was. But as sort of day to day, I would say on average, I was probably having like a beer a day, a beer a night kind of thing. With dinner, I'd be making dinner and just crack one open, or a glass of wine. I mean, my wife would turn to me and say, hey, would you like feel like wine? It would be like these words that would just be like, bring a little warmth over me. And you're joining her in an activity, you're making dinner together. It was a nice thing. So
of course,
I would say I was more in the binge category, and also in the drinking for no reason, like drinking because it just was like, oh, there's the bottle. Like, I know you've had some single malt scotch. We've talked about that. Like I would have it at 10 o'clock at night because it just seemed like something to do. So,
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing that that you've gotten where you are. Absolutely fantastic. Like really great work. Sorry, Justin, go ahead.
No, you exactly the same words. I think it's wonderful you've gone through this, Clark. I mean, obviously it's something that's meant something to you. So you've carried it forward. You're doing it in a way that's authentic to you, and you're doing it in a way that you don't sound like an obnoxious vegan, that you're lording it over us.
Yeah, I've been trying not to be too preachy about it. Like I have to watch myself out at events. Like we were out last Saturday at an event, and there was a dinner beforehand. A lot of my wife's work colleagues. It was a concert that they had bought tickets for a bunch of the staff. It was really nice, and it's always like this thing where I'll go in. So when I heard the place we went to is called the Beer Bistro, and first the comment I had to my wife was, well, it'd be interesting to see a place called the Beer Bistro, how many non-alcoholic beers they have available. And I tried to look on their website just to sort of anticipate, because I'm thinking if I get there and there's no options like that, or it's just like Heineken Zero, which seems to be the prevailing non-alcoholic beer. And I'm A, kind of sick of it because it's always the option, and B, it's not the greatest. There's so many much nicer non-alcoholic beers. Fortunately, they had like 4 options. Actually, they had 5, but 2 were sold out. So there was like 3 options, an IPA and something, another kind of ale. They were actually pretty good.
Nice.
So it is becoming more like, I'm not getting the sideways glances I think that people would get 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. You go into a bar, asking for, you're liable to get your ass kicked looking for a non-alcoholic beer at a pub or something, either by the bartender or the guy sitting next to you.
Well, I mean, to that point and to what Sileem shared earlier, there was somebody that I know here, and in the whole drinking culture, he did get that side eye for a little while, but everyone gets used to it. Everyone around them kind of fades to the back and doesn't really make it any kind of thing to that person either. I'm curious, Clark, and this is partially tongue in cheek, but has your self-talk gotten better since you stopped drinking? Because that self-talk, the night of when you decided to stop, was pretty harsh. What you described, and let's be honest, right? Alcohol is a depressant, right?
Yep.
It is a well-known depressant, and not something that actually soothes or helps any of the things that most people try to intend to utilize it for.
Very good point. Yep.
Drowning one's sorrows or maladies, they actually just drown further. So I'm just curious, since that night where you made that choice, has your self-talk gotten a little bit gentler, or are you still as strongly self-critical?
Yeah, great question. I don't think it's different. I mean, maybe it's different, but I don't think it's not there. I think there's always that critical voice, the self-talk, no matter what, whether there's booze or not. But I can say that I guess it's one less thing to be badly self-talking about, like, shit, why did I go out last night and do that? Why, I haven't had a hangover in 5 months almost, or more than that, I guess. And the other day, so I was eating a bunch of this. I love charcuterie. And I went overboard the other day. I ate so much. The next morning I had what felt like a hangover, and I was convinced it was from all the sodium and nitrates and all the things that are in the meats. And I was reminded of like, oh my God, yeah, this feels just like an alcoholic hangover. And I'm quite glad not to have felt like this for so long. So yeah.
What about the sort of the aspect of, I mean, you mentioned when you were going out sort of with your wife and your friends to the beer place, and they had non-alcoholic beer options. But I mean, do you feel like it's at all limiting in terms of sort of your social, work social or private social life? I mean, very often it's sort of, let's go out for drinks, or like whether it's like after work or Sunday afternoon beers with friends, that kind of thing. Is there any impact there?
Yeah, it's a great question. There's a few situations where I think maybe we haven't socialized as much because of me not drinking. Like I've got one friend who, it's kind of something we did. Like it was a big part of, hey, let's go out for beers. And the great thing is that when you are in this and you're doing it, you can actually do that still and have a good time. Like that was something I read in a great book called This Naked Mind. It's all about alcohol and how it prevails in society, and it's such a social thing, and it's special to drink. Like your kids, you can't, people under in our country 19, well, in this province anyway, can't drink, so they grow up waiting for that time when they're allowed to drink. So there's this in our culture, it's very much you have to be old enough to do it, responsible, all that sort of stuff. So I would say yes. In general, no. And it's something you think for sure. The research I did on alcoholism, addictions and things, especially booze, a lot of people think their friends are going to start disappearing if they stop drinking, because you might, for any reason, it could be that's exposing the friend in a way that is like, oh, so now you're just going to sit there and watch me drink, like I'm this, like I have a problem, or you might. I was worried maybe my friends won't be as interesting if I don't drink, or maybe I won't be as interesting to my friends if I don't drink. So on the work front, the non-alcoholic beers, I have to say, have been just such a great thing, because if you can get the beer ordered and it's on the table, nobody knows anything.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So, and then I've ordered it in front of people.
No, they think the opposite. Clark is so gung-ho. He's got a beer first every time.
That's right. Yeah, well, his was just sitting there waiting for him. Wow. Yeah. So,
well, I mean, there's always like, sometimes there are just sometimes that where you don't really feel like drinking, right? But you're in a social setting where everyone is drinking. And sometimes I'm just thinking, maybe I can just maybe I'll just go get a soda water, have the bartender put a lemon in there. And I mean, who the hell is gonna know, right? You're drinking something that looks like booze. That's all that anyone wants to know, right? No one's like testing your blood alcohol level, right? So, yeah.
From my side, I mean, I don't drink that often, and when I do, it usually, I guess it would fall into this kind of binge category, because when I do, it's, a handful of drinks. It's, 3-4 drinks, but I don't have another drink for 3-4 weeks. It averages out to basically like a drink a week, but I'm having most of it in a sitting, right? But because I'm oftentimes meeting up with people who are drinking, what I do find that I have a challenge with is there's a time in the night where you can no longer meet their energy level.
Or whatever their level is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That, if they start at 5, 6 o'clock, and everyone's laughing, having a good time, and they kind of hit that pocket, right? They're a couple drinks in, and everyone's very loose and having
words are slurring a bit.
Yeah, they're getting there, and then they get a little happy, and then they go maybe a bit too far for themselves, and then inhibitions or other things fall off, and you're kind of, you could be left with the wreckage in some ways. And maybe you don't want to, maybe you don't want to have to deal with literal physical wreckage if they're breaking something in a bar by accident because they're really actually drunk now.
Right.
There is that element that I do find if you are not drinking around people who are drinking, there is a point in the night where it's probably best to just cut out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I was just thinking as you were talking, like I should have come in with like a top 5 great benefits of giving up alcohol for me. And one of them was there's never a discussion of who's driving. Like my wife and I used to always have these discussions. Like I'd be like, okay, if it's no offense, nephew, if it's your family, I get to drink. If it's my family, you get to drink.
That's a good arrangement.
Yeah. And I'll jokingly say or if it's her friends group, I'll just drop the line. Hey, if the friends of my wife and us that listen, no offense, I'm kind of half kidding, but if I said, if it's your friend group, then to get through it, then I get to drink that night.
I thought you were going to say, it's my family. I really need it.
Could go that way too. And it sometimes has flip-flopped, but so there's never a discussion now. It's great. And there's never even a moment, like I've driven back from stuff and I see the police car, I never intentionally drove under the influence, but even with 1 or 2 beers, you're wondering, I don't have that worry at all. Bring on a spot check, bring on a whatever. I have no problem.
You want me to get out?
Yeah,
I'll get out now.
Right. Sir, control yourself. No, I haven't been drinking. Yeah, that's what they always say. Give me the breathalyzer. Come on. Because I actually had an incident about 20 years ago where I was pulled over and I got breathalyzed and I was damn close to blowing over. like just a couple notches below. And I don't know if you guys have ever done a breathalyzer before.
I have, yeah.
So they call them RIDE. It's the RIDE program in Ontario here. And it stands for something I can't think of offhand. But when I came so close to blowing over, and it wasn't even like, they didn't even say anything. Oh, you're close. They just said, oh, okay, well, you didn't blow over. See you later. Have a good night.
It's black or white. Yeah.
Yeah. I kept the little thing. They give you this little thing that they put onto the breathalyzer, and you blow into that, and then you take it off. It comes out of a little package so that you know it's brand new. I kept that in my console for like a month as a reminder of how scared I was that night of that and how close I came. I've kept that little thing sitting in the console for at least a month just as a reminder.
Really lucky.
How bad is the DUI offense in Ontario?
Well, they've reduced the level of like blowing over. It used to be 0.08 was the number. Now I think it's 0.05 or something.
Oh wow, 0.8. That's quite a bit.
Yeah, you could have 2 to 3 over like a 3-hour night. Like 1 an hour was kind of the thing that they would use as a guide. Like you don't have more than 1 an hour, and then of course it differed based on body types and stuff.
Right, of course.
You were drinking and how fast and all that. But that was kind of the token thing, 1 per hour. The offenses are. I don't know them offhand. I guess that's a good thing. I don't know them offhand, but they're like the first. It depends, I guess, how badly. If you blow over, I think you lose your car for at least 24 hours.
Right. Yeah, they stop you from driving, obviously. At that point,
the car will be impounded, and you'll be you'll have to come get it the next day, sort of thing. It'll definitely be on your record, and
of course, yeah.
I think that even that one-time offense will be a pretty negative thing on your driving record, insurance-wise as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's.
Where I'm from, its first offense is 1 month suspension of license, and that was the big thing, right? You'd lose basically your access to get to work. I mean, a lot of America, people drive to work. It's not a lot of infrastructure around public transit in most places around the U.S. So
serious offense.
Yeah, it's a pretty good ding. Yeah,
and it's one of those things where if you're interviewing for a job, a job I had back when I was working at another insurance company, it required you to drive to see customers and stuff. And if you had to say, oh, actually, I don't have a license, or you wouldn't get that job, or you'd lose that job if something happened mid job. And there's such a there's a lot of implications to it. Never mind that you could kill somebody.
Yeah. I mean, suffice it to say that, those penalties should be harsh, right? There's, there's no excuse for, I'm all for sort of reasonable limits, right? If you had 1 beer in the afternoon, I don't think that should stop you from driving in the evening. But, if you're over a certain threshold, and even like a 0.05, I think that's still, it's where the threshold is in a lot of countries. That's certainly where it was in Australia, where I was. Even that's probably a bit too high in my own personal opinion. I mean, it doesn't need to be there.
Well, it used to be 0.1, and then they lowered it to 0.08, and now a lot of places are now what you said 0.05 now. Wow, that's actually pretty low.
Yeah, I suppose
low as in what
as a threshold.
Low?
The BAC, the blood alcohol content level.
But that's not much beer, much alcohol. So like 1 beer could be risky. Like even like if you had beer.
That 0.05 is basically supposed to be about a half a beer an hour.
Yeah.
So in Ontario, I looked it up. Says license suspensions. Drivers receive a 1-year license suspension for the first time they are convicted of a DUI charge. So. So getting caught at a roadside stop is not a conviction, obviously.
Right.
So if it eventually gets to the point where you're charged with it, then 1 year And the second offense you'll be prohibited for 3 years. Third offense, a lifetime prohibition with the possibility of reinstatement after 10 years. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, I haven't thought about any of that in a long time, which is good. And I have found I heard this, all of this, I found out this term called the sober curious movement, which there's a lot of people out there that are considering giving up alcohol, a lot more than I ever knew or thought. If you go on YouTube and try, I gave up drinking, you'll find hundreds of videos of people talking about their journey of giving it up for a year and the experience of it. And kind of wish I'd journaled it a bit that way. Like, I didn't. And it sort of feels weird to come on and say, hey, it's been 150 days since, like, it's not much of a before after like thing, but,
right. Yeah.
You know, if I was to say the biggest benefits are back to that top 5, maybe also saving money. Like, you know, I would go to the liquor store and buy like wine, $200 for like a few bottles of wine. And like, I haven't had any of those types of trips recently, unless it's to buy it for someone else, like going to a party or something. But I have no problem with being around people that are drinking. Like, so yeah.
Yeah.
What's replaced it? You know, you said you're doing the 45 minutes a day workout. You know, is that where the energy has gone in some ways, or are there other areas? You know, you said there's the money part, but you know, from an energy and time spent standpoint, do you feel like your energy has moved into something else? I'm not trying to be super productive in asking this question. I'm just curious if you feel like the energy's moved in a certain direction.
Okay, because you say what's replaced it. I was going to say non-alcoholic beer certainly replaced it, and has been a you know, very helpful because it visually looks like you're drinking like everybody else. They're getting better and better, these beers, so I'm enjoying them. Guinness Zero, if you're a Guinness drinker, Guinness Zero is as close to the real thing as I've ever had. Like, of all the different beers I've drank, like Peroni's probably my favorite non-alcoholic beer of the big names. But Guinness Zero, but they all just have this like, not necessarily trying to replace the taste of the alcoholic version of it, but Guinness Zero, man, it comes as close as it gets.
I'll give that a try next time I come across it.
If you can find it. I don't know how popular they are there. Like, I've had to call the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, and that sounds ominous, but that's that's the body that controls the distribution of alcohol in this province.
Yeah.
I had to call them and say, hey, I noticed like you've got like across all the different locations, like some places have 2, 5 cases, like 1 case, no cases. Closest was like a 2-hour drive, and they only had 1 case. I'm not going to drive, and it's a pack of 4, so you're not even driving for a 12 pack or a 24. So they said, yeah, it's been really popular. We've ordered far less than we probably should have. Could check back with us in mid-November, and that was like 2 weeks ago. So basically, check back with us in a month. We should be replenished. So very good beer, but. Yeah, but I guess so what's replaced it in terms of like activity, or because of all those other things, the only one I'm still doing religiously is the drinking part. I'm not working out 45 minutes a day. I'm back to sugar and all those sorts of things. But I guess I can only think of the knock-on effects. Like I get to I have better sleeps. It's another top 5 thing, I guess. But I guess definitely not having the hangovers in terms of an energy thing. That's not something I have to tackle ever. You know, dogging my way through a Saturday or a Sunday because I was out drinking the night before. Yeah.
I just had this image of, you know, like those old cartoons where, you know, someone would bake a pie and they would put it out on the windowsill to cool. And then the person would burn their mouth or burn their hands, you know, trying to get to that pie that was cooling on the windowsill. And I'm just envisioning Clark going from house to house, you know, reaching in and grabbing those cinnamon buns, you know, that are cooling on people's counters.
I was watching Better Call Saul last night. Sileem, I know Sileem, you watch it. Do you watch it?
Yeah, I finished it. Yeah.
Well, he's a Cinnabon store manager.
Yeah.
And so in the episode I watched, like, he's many things in the series, but this weird pocket of his life,
Right.
and we're still kind of figuring out what this is all about. He's manager of a Cinnabon, and there's a point where he's bribing these security guards. Hopefully not a spoiler, but he's bribing these security guards or setting them up for something a scheme he's plotting. And every day is bringing these cinnamon buns to them at the same time every night. And you see him like lathering on the icing and then taking them out of the oven and putting them in the box, bringing them. And I actually have to say, I wasn't really that tempted by it. And not that that was part of what I was giving up, but I wasn't seething with, God, get me a cinnamon bun right now.
One last thing I'll say about this is, I'm from Egypt, so in Egypt or any other Middle Eastern country where people don't consume alcohol, people are still fun. They go out, they enjoy themselves, they do all sorts of activities without the consumption of alcohol, and life goes on, right? So you don't need it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because in this book, This Naked Mind, it talks about that. They said like cultures that don't drink still have 200-300 person weddings and party the place, down to the studs. Like they'll have a great time, and there's no booze there. So
Absolutely.
It is possible. Mm-hmm. It is possible to have fun and not have like copious amounts of, because that's in this culture where I'm from here. Like, there used to be a joke, like Bob and Fred, or Judy and Fred's wedding, it better be an open bar, and if it wasn't, that would be like, oh, geez, like that was like seen as if you're hosting a wedding and you don't have an open bar, it was sort of
make or break for some people.
So, in this culture, drinking is very much part of what people look forward to as part of doing something. Like,
right. Yeah.
Going to the ball game, like, hey, beer and a hot dog. And for me, it was like 3-4 beers and a hot dog, and just stuff like that. And it's expensive. Like, you're talking for a can of a tall can of beer at Rogers Center for the Blue Jays, it's like $16 plus a tip, $20.
What?
17, $18 when you throw the tip in. So you have 4 drinks, you're talking like almost $100.
Wow.
Crazy.
That's insane.
Crazy. Yeah. And then I would criticize my kid for wanting a popcorn and a Coke. Like, $12.
Hand it over to me. I'm going to eat the popcorn.
So, yeah, well, I'm glad we talked about this. For people that are, like, again, I'm not trying to be a preacher or an evangelist of any kind on this, but I will say that I feel much better overall, and it's working for me. But for those out there that were thinking, well, can't really hang out with him, he's going to not want to do it, or he won't be any fun. I've had many occasions where I've gone out in drinking situations and had just as good a time as when I was drinking. So,
cheers to that.
Thanks for
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm happy to share it. If people are willing to listen, I'll talk about it for as long as you want. Well, let's maybe get ourselves to wrapping up. Do you guys have anything you're watching, listening to that you want to share? I mentioned Better Call Saul. I think I mentioned that the last time we talked, but anything you guys are watching, reading, listening to that's interesting right now?
Justin, do you have anything?
The only thing I've seen recently was, and I haven't finished it, is the documentary that Errol Morris did on Jean Le Carré, the writer, the spy novel writer. He wrote Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, amongst several other famous spy novels. And it's a documentary done by Errol Morris, the famous documentarian who did Fog of War, and what was the one on Rumsfeld as well, not too long ago. He's very good at getting his focal point, his subjects to open up. And this gentleman who went by the pen name of Jean Le Carré, he I won't give away too much, but he grew up under very up and up type of conditions. His father was a bit of a hustler, and I'll leave that at that. But it's interesting. It's a documentary about this guy who wrote some of the most famous books, novels of all time, and how he led a very singular path that was divergent to anything that he had experienced as a child in his upbringing. And he grew up under very challenging circumstances and came out of it a pretty whole person, it seems, for the most part, as far as anyone can
And where
guess.
did you view this? Like, where is it available?
It was on Apple TV. It's on their
Nice.
streaming. It's called the Pigeon Tunnel.
All right, Pigeon Tunnel. Okay.
And he explains the title in one of his stories.
Very nice. How long is that?
Hour 20, hour 10,
okay.
something like that. It's pretty
very
tidy.
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I've been listening to a podcast called The Diary of a CEO. It's a guy named Stephen Bartlett. And the title is kind of misleading. I've only listened to a couple episodes, but I kind of thought it was just going to be interviews with CEOs. And it's not. There might be some in the mix, but the couple episodes I listened to, one was with Rainn Wilson from The Office. It's
Dwight Schrute?
Yeah, Dwight Schrute, for those that know him by the character. One of my favorite characters in the show. It's a long form podcast, so it's minimum 1 hour per episode. Some of them are longer. He talked a lot about his mental health struggles growing up, weird childhood, his struggles to become an actor, struggles with mental health. So I found that really interesting, just hearing that. There was another one. This was more of this is another one by a guy named Gabor Mate. It might be Mate. He's Argentinian, maybe Hungarian. Sorry, he's Hungarian Canadian. He was just on. I listened to his episode talking about the connection between illnesses and pain, or illnesses and being nice. People pleasers have a prevalence for more disease. There's a prevalence between multiple sclerosis for patients or people that have it, and the people pleasers and people that just don't express their emotions, like anger and things. They suppress it, and talks about the gut and the gut connection to the brain. And
I'm very interested in how they measured people pleasers.
Yeah, I didn't get into that too much. He did use an example where he said he was at a multiple sclerosis event, and there was a small event, like 25 people in a room or something. And he said, he used an example. He said, "Here, I want you to give me $100, and just want it right now, and I want it in cash." It's like, "Well, I don't have it on me." Okay, well, you go to the bank machine and get it. Well, yeah, I don't. Like, it was just going on and on. It's like, why can't you just say no? Like, so it was a little example where she just, I can't get those words out. I can't get those words out. So it sounds like it could be a generalization, but he has done a lot of research on this. And I'm not focusing on this one episode as the reason to listen. It is a good episode, but it's good. It's something that I've been enjoying listening to. The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett, and it was recommended by my friend Mike, who's been on this podcast, and I've mentioned his name about 3 times.
You have, yeah.
That's actually the second time I've heard about that podcast in the last couple of weeks. Okay. So I'm definitely gonna have to check it out now. Yeah,
they go through, and there'll be some names you probably recognize, and many you probably don't. But good interviewer. He's a very good interviewer. He shuts up and lets the guest talk, and he just asks good questions. Like, he's someone I listen to just also for how he asks and interviews people. So, Sileem, you got anything there?
Yeah, I've recently binge watched an anime series called Attack of the Titan, and it's Japanese anime series. I think it started about, I want to say, maybe 10 years ago. The anime itself probably, maybe not 10 years ago, but something like 7, 8 years ago. There was a manga, right? So like the comic book that preceded it. It's still incomplete. There's supposedly one more sort of longish episode to it, like a sort of episode / movie ish thing. 80, I think I watched 86 episodes in total, which are mostly, except for the last one, they're like 20 minutes each. So it's not impossible to watch. I spent maybe 10 days doing it. But I got
you
hooked.
And the ferrets.
Yeah, just me and the ferrets. But I got hooked, right?
Just lay down some fresh shavings, just sink in there.
I'm with you guys tonight.
Yeah. I got hooked on it, right? It was, it started off really cool. So the premise of the story is, there's, you have sort of human beings, people that live in this kind of walled city. And outside this walled city live giants, like, people who look like human beings, but they're all giants, right? Sort of, 5 meters and, anywhere up to like 50, and even more, meters tall. And, the giants themselves, they look they kind of look pretty creepy, right? And there's this one incident that happens on the first day, really, where these giants attack this walled city, and things happen, and that sets in motion the story of the protagonist, a boy called Ellen, who, he and his 2 friends, things happen to them where they end up wanting to sort of fight these giants, right? And it's their story of them then sort of fighting the giants and trying to sort of seek justice from what happened to the city that they were living in, and the things that happened to them.
Gulliver's Travels a bit when you say giants. Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah. I think the writer has taken from a lot of themes from other sort of other literary sources, but also a lot from history as well. There's a big sort of political, social angle, military angle. It's not just talking about the story of one person and his sort of fight or his story, but it does look at various different facets of society and how people deal with adversity, on a sort of large scale. So very interesting. Don't be intimidated by the length.
Where did you find this? Where can people find this?
I watched it on Netflix, but I think it's on most streaming channels, if I'm not mistaken. Like not streaming channels, streaming platforms.
Well, on a related note,
and for those of us who aren't fluent in Japanese, I'm pretty sure because of how big and prevalent that series is, you can watch it, I think, even dubbed in English.
Yeah. It's definitely, they have English dubbing, and subtitles and multiple language dubbing in multiple languages as well. So, yeah.
On a related topic, Marie Kondo has a manga called The Life-Changing Manga of Tidying Up.
Interesting.
And I read it. And
did you?
Yeah, it was good. It was short. It was super cheesy. Like, it made your teeth hurt a little bit. But it was pretty good. It was a good overview of this sort of the process of her technique. So yes, if anybody is looking for a light version of the lifetime magic of tidying up, there is a manga version that is easily digestible.
You're really into Marie Kondo, aren't you? Like you brought her.
I am.
Yeah,
I am.
You brought her up a few times now.
I'm about to embark on it. I'm going to think on Saturday. So phase 1 of it is supposed to be close.
Yeah.
She says her whole thing is you don't tidy by room, you tidy by category. And The first category you're supposed to tackle is clothing. So, and another tip from it was, don't think about what to discard. Think about what to keep. Use that as your, now what should I throw out from this stuff that I don't need anymore? No, think about what should I keep because it sparks joy. So.
Sage advice.
Yes. We should do maybe we'll do a book review of the lifetime magic of tidying up if you guys could stomach it.
Why
or
not?
Great guys. Thanks so much for jumping on today. And Justin, thanks for making it 7 a.m. my time. Actually, it was a little easier to get up for. I mean, I was up, but normally we do these at 6:30 in the morning, and the little extra half hour was nice. So thanks for that.
a happy circumstance, very much. But no, really, truly, Clark, thanks for bringing us on for this and to discuss something that obviously has meaning to you and sharing a bit with us about your journey through this. It was really interesting.
I thought exactly the same. It was fantastic.
Happy to do it. All right, guys, have a good, enjoy your weekend. It's a little closer to happening than ours, but enjoy your weekend and we'll be chatting soon.
Thank you.
Take care, Clark. Enjoy the last bit of baseball.